Carrie is a film that delves deep into the monstrous feminine, abjection, and religious trauma. Carrie White was raised to be pure, a sweet, innocent, obedient girl. Her mother pushed these traditional gender roles and religious ideals on her until eventually Carrie grew to be the thing her mother feared most. A powerful, defiant, satanic woman. In this video, I will be delving into Brian De Palma's Carrie through the lens of the monstrous feminine and abjection, drawing on feminist film theory to unpack how purity culture and religion shaped Carrie's transformation. The scene I'll be focusing on today is the dinner scene between Carrie and her mother, Margaret White.
Carrie, you haven't touched your apple cake.
It gives me pimples, Mama.
Pimples are the Lord's way of chastising.
This moment is the catalyst for the end of the film. Carrie's final transformation into the monstrous feminine character.
To try and get along with people better.
What are you going on about, Carrie?
In this scene, we can fully understand Carrie and her mother's relationship dynamic. A relationship that thrives off fear, control, and repression.
Yeah, the senior prom, everybody's going.
During this scene, Carrie asks her mother if she can go to the prom. This act of rebellion immediately threatens her mother's power, as Margaret is a deeply religious woman obsessed with purity culture.
Start to try and be a whole person before it's too late for me to.
She responds furiously and begins quoting scripture at Carrie. She then escalates the situation further by throwing tea onto Carrie, extinguishing the surrounding candles and consequently extinguishing what was left of their relationship.
No. After all you've been taught,
Everyone isn't bad, Mama. Everything isn't a sin.
come to your closet and pray, ask to be forgiven.
He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him. You really like him, Mama.
Boys. The boys. The boys. Yes, the boys. After the blood come the boys, like sniffing dogs, grinning and slobbering and trying to find out where that smell comes from. Where the smell is, that smell. Listen, I know where they take in that cars. I see it all right. Well, you're not going.
Already said I would.
Tell that boy you're not going or we're going to move from here.
No.
We'll move from here and you'll never see that boy again. The rain's coming in.
Mom, please say talk
Let
to
it
me.
close the window.
Mama, I'll get him. Please say talk to me.
As the scene builds, Carrie's telekinetic powers erupt, slamming the surrounding windows shut as thunder crashes outside, helping build on the intensity.
I'm going, Mama. And things are gonna change around here.
Now I'm going to be talking about abjection. Abjection is the phenomenon in which human beings react physically to the sight of something corporeal, aka something that threatens the distinction between self and what is outside of it. As Bro Deschanel said in her YouTube video, Abject Woman, the greatest horror of all, it is a similar feeling one may feel when viewing a corpse. It represents both the self and the other, our spirit and our physical bodies. The feeling of abjection is identifying that the two are separate. Abjection could be compared with morbid fascination. In the horror genre, spectators take pleasure in watching women experience extreme emotions, painting them as hysterical creatures. In the past, almost all female characters seen on screen were created by men for men. These characters were written with the assumption that the male spectator will be the main audience. Carrie subverts this idea by showing her as a powerful female character and not really sexualizing her at any point in this film, a rare feat for its time. Horror movies are a very clear example of abjection. People's morbid fascination with watching these people on screen be murdered, tortured, hunted, haunted, and all of the frightening things seen in horrors. When people think of women in horror films, they assume the women are the victims. As Alfred Hitchcock so kindly said, blondes make the best victims. They're like virgin snow that shows up the bloody footprints. However, women are quite often the monsters in film, specifically the body horror genre. Barbara Creed raises the question, why has woman as mother been neglected in feminist theory and in virtually all significant theoretical analysis of the popular horror film? While I myself am not sure why there was previously so little said about this topic, I believe it is rooted in our patriarchal society and the belief that women should not hold that level of power. Abjection is used in this scene when Carrie uses her telekinesis and when Carrie gets hysterical. When Carrie uses her telekinesis, she is demonstrating the monstrous feminine, specifically the trope of the witch. Female hysteria can be seen as the abject, since it represents the thing the patriarchy seeks to get rid of while simultaneously being its product. Kristeva argues that abjection is a large part of marginalised groups, including women. Women then are forced to make space in the abject, to seek comfort in it, to use said space to their advantage, and to portray otherwise ostracised characters and archetypes. Hysteria was used to mock the female experience and the symptoms that arose from the repression and trauma of having to live up to societal standards. As Kristeva said, it is thus not the lack of cleanliness of health that causes abjection, but what disturbs identity, system, and order. Hysteria is something that disturbs the system. That is what makes it abject. Monstrous Feminine, Barbara Creed, 1993. To analyse this moment, I will be using Barbara Creed's concept of the monstrous feminine. Both Kristeva and Creed centre the female body as the site of fear and fascination. Abjection defines the reaction to it, while the monstrous feminine defines how cinema presents it. Creed argues that horror films depict female characters as monstrous because of their femininity, sexuality, bodies, and ability to create life. Instead of just viewing women as victims, this theory argues that female characters are often made monstrous through their connection to the female reproductive system, something represented as disgusting, terrifying, the abject. This theory can be used to subvert common stereotypes and to challenge patriarchal ideologies. Creed characterises the examples of the monstrous feminine as the archaic mother, the monstrous womb, the witch, the vampire, and the possessed woman. All of these characters can be linked back to the female body and menstruation. For example, the fear of the female vampire comes from menstrual blood and the weaponization of womanhood. The desire to feed off of one's blood to transform represents the transformation one goes through when beginning their menstrual cycle. Menstruation can be used as a catalyst towards womanhood and therefore a threat in horror, representing change within a woman and reflecting changes in the monstrous feminine character. Carrie would fall under the witch with her telekinetic powers. Witches have been historically associated with menstruation. As Creed discusses in her book, in some cultures, a young girl who had prophetic dreams at the time of her menarche was frequently singled out as a future shaman or witch. In Carrie, she develops powers just after getting her first period. While historically witches were viewed as sinners who associated with the devil, that viewpoint eventually faded away due to changes in religious views and development and the trust of science growing. The witch wasn't originally a horror character. It wasn't until The Wizard of Oz, 1939, that a witch was portrayed as a monster. Witches had been portrayed as interesting characters with magical powers, rather than something to be feared. With the rise of conservatism and Christian beliefs, I believe this ideology switched back to more historic views. In Carrie, we are reverted back to this association through Carrie's mother and her intense Christian ideologies. Carrie's mother believes her daughter is the spawn of the devil and represents sin, everything wrong with this world. This scene shows how horror often disguises social commentary beneath spectacle. Carrie isn't terrifying because of the violence. It's terrifying because it's female. Scene design. Now, let's look at how the scene was shot. This scene starts with a slow pullback to reveal the setting. This instantly creates a slight sense of unease in the viewers despite it being a seemingly innocent conversation. The beginning of this scene only jumps between 3 different shots, a wide and 2 close-ups of the characters. This helps viewers to gently ease into such an intense scene. As tension rises and the argument grows, we begin to see new angles. When the argument is finally reaching its climax, there is a low canted angle shot. This shot shows the intensity of this moment and raises feelings of fear in viewers, as we can see just how aggressive and frightening Carrie's mother can truly be. Cinematographer Mari Tosi used low-key lighting to trap the characters in shadow. This helped to build the intensity of the scene and create a sense of entrapment in the viewers, similar to how Carrie felt in her relationship with her mother. Once the candles have been doused, the lightning becomes one of the main sources of lighting in this shot. The inconsistency of having bright flashes to light the scene really helped build upon the intensity already felt by viewers. The sound design of this moment helps with the supernatural side of this scene. Thunder, windows rattling, wind blowing furiously.
Not going.
Already said I would.
Tell that boy you're not going or I'm going to move from here.
All these aspects grow in strength as the scene progresses, reflecting Carrie's inner state and her connection with the supernatural. Uneasy orchestral music begins once Carrie's mother becomes more physically aggressive. This music continues to build until Carrie finally explodes and reveals her powers to her mother. This is then contrasted by the silence that follows this moment, showing Carrie is taking back her power and autonomy, and this is the end of the beginning for her. Symbolism. Carrie's powers represent the female body awakening, menstruation, desire, and rage. Earlier on in the film, Carrie gets her first period. Instead of this being celebrated, she is made fun of by her classmates and shamed by her mother, who treats this as a sign of sin rather than womanhood. Through the lens of abjection, Carrie's body becomes a site of horror and liberation. Her telekinesis is born through shame, yet becomes her ultimate power. The tension between purity and power, being a good girl and monster, reflect the societal fear of female sexuality that grows from purity culture. Carrie represents this fear and forces audiences to confront it. In conclusion, Carrie is a very nuanced film filled with societal commentary on the patriarchy, religion, and being a woman. This specific scene powerfully illustrates the concepts of monstrous femininity and the abject. Through the use of religious symbolism, repression, and Carrie's telekinesis, director Brian De Palma visualizes the horror that comes from suppressing female emotions and sexuality. Carrie's loss of control over her powers in this scene mirror her mother's lack of control over Carrie's lack of purity. The dinner scene uses sound, lighting, and dialogue to expose the internalized fear of female power and critique societal structures that create such fear. Through the lens of abjection, we discover that the fear of Carrie as a monster stems from more than her being a female, rather than her actions. Her transformation into the witch, monstrous feminine archetype is a product of the shame she feels through the pressure of purity culture, religion, and her controlling mother. Carrie is a commentary of femininity and how, when constrained, becomes both terrifying and tragic.